Hey guys, Ryan and Greg back for another breakdown of American Horror Story Roanoke. This is my Roanoke breakdown, and we're on chapters 7 and 8.
Now, before we get started, of course, watch these 2 episodes first, and come on back here. This episode kicks off with a return to Roanoke production trailer with Sidney and crew. There's 75 cameras that are going to be used.
Yes.
And I will just start off by saying these 2 episodes are probably the campiest, not even campiest is the right word here. I'm trying to think of the word here that goes, I want to say cheesiest maybe episodes they've ever shot. You have to just take your brain, take it out, and put it down on the table, and then just watch everything unfold, because that's where it goes. Because if you try to think too hard into this one and go, now wait a minute, how are all these cameras set to the right, settings? Do the batteries last on most of these? And you just gotta just stop, tell your brain to calm down, shut up, take a moment here and just take this in, because there's no other way to describe it.
Yeah, you're right, Greg. There is a lot of liberties taken on how you make a coherent show out of all the found footage, right? You said there's 75 cameras installed in the house, but then you have certain people recording on their iPhone, then they add a body camera later on Dominic, so a lot of liberties. I like how you put that. Everyone at home, take your brain out of your head and just put it to the side when you watch these episodes, because it doesn't really make a lot of sense, but let's just pretend it does.
What, did you just see that?
See what?
Somebody just stabbed Rory.
Now, back in the trailer with Sidney and the cameraman, it's dinner time apparently, and they're just chilling out, but the cameraman notices on screen that Rory gets stabbed by the nurses very quickly before the camera glitches out to a different shot, or something's happening here. So he picks up the camera and he starts recording everything, and this is where we just go into full, I guess, Blair Witch. I know we're already doing that in the last episode, but these 2 episodes, it takes it to overdrive. So sure enough, Sidney hears screaming outside immediately afterwards, and they head out there to check it out with the cameraman there, and he's got the camera, he's doing his job, he's got to record everything like Sidney said. So sure enough, outside they find a dead body, and from there you think, okay, maybe it's time, close up shop. This isn't fake. There's a real body here. Let me put this camera down. Let's call the police and figure this out. And then the butcher comes out, stabs Sidney. The cameraman's still recording all of this, and doesn't do anything about it. He just stands there, records everything. He's doing a great job for the production team, but other than that, he just stands there, and then the very last second tries to, run out of there, and is stabbed by the butcher immediately after, and this is how we start off the episode.
Yeah, pretty ridiculous how everything spiraled out of control so quickly, Greg. And like you said the butcher, but it's actually Agnes in butcher costume and butcher, basically as the butcher. She's kind of lost it completely, had a mental breakdown, and basically assumed the identity of the butcher whenever she went back to the Roanoke house. So she's on a murder spree. She kills the entire production staff. She feels that Sidney, she wanted kind of a revenge against Sidney for what he did, and kind of what he did to her career, or kind of didn't support her and give her more of a role. So she's just completely off the deep end. So she murders all of them, and it's all on camera. We also get a good idea of just how kind of calculated and ruthless Sidney is during this whole thing, right? All he cares about is grab a camera, record this. He doesn't care about the well-being of his production staff. He doesn't care about anyone besides if there's a camera there to record it, because all he is concerned about is the success of this TV show.
Oh, shit.
Now, back in the house, Lee wants to record everything, no matter what it is. Even Monet and everyone's telling her, look, there's cameras all over the place. What are you doing? But Lee wants to make sure that everybody sees her side of the story here. So she doesn't want to get anything mixed up in the edit. She's thinking of everything already, like she doesn't want to get the bad guy edit. She doesn't want to get the RuPaul villain edit or anything like that. So she wants to control the story here, the narrative. Fine. That's great. I don't know how long these batteries last on their phones, but sure, cool. Unless they have any Anchor, battery chargers, cool. Maybe they have those in their pocket. Just go with it. Whatever, it's fine. With that said, from there, you would think everyone would get together and be like, you know what? Let's get out of here. It's time to go.
Right.
Nope.
Oh my God, Brad Pitt.
What?
Rory got a better offer.
I was shocked by the reaction of Rory's death, or the lack of seeing a body
He's
there.
missing, yes.
Immediately, Audrey goes into, I was too good to be true. He must have left for the Brad Pitt film that he was.
There's blood
wanting
everywhere.
To get the role.
What do you?
There's literally blood everywhere.
Look at all the blood.
Yeah,
Someone's
I don't know.
dead.
Yeah, this whole thing was is super comedic. Just kind of seeing their reactions. Even Dominic is like, I've had my fair share of slasher film roles, and this isn't corn syrup. That was a funny little tie-in right there to like the broader universe of where he, the acting that he's been doing inside the AHS world.
Corn syrup. Same stuff they use for pig's blood and carry.
They need to, like you said, get stuff together and basically, hey, this is not a hoax anymore. This is like for real. Like I something's wrong.
Now, back with Agnes, apparently she's, really great grip or, camera operator as well, because she took the camera from the production studio. She took the production camera, figured out white balance, everything, got all that set up to make sure her shot was perfect. And then from there, she records like a little bit of her, I guess is another monologue with herself, where she goes over everything that she's done so far, apologizing and everything. But with that said, again, this takes a huge leap in imagination to go with this. I'm fine with it because again, you're at this point you're locked in and you know what you're getting with this Blair Witch style. And side note, I found it very silly when she brings up Alyssa, the assistant, and who she murdered. She says that she was very nice to me on set, and she wished she had better treatment on set. And I'm just thinking of Kathy Bates from this point. And this entire episode is just Kathy Bates doing whatever she can here. She's hamming it up. And she should have got an Emmy Award for this crazy crap they made her do. It's insane.
On top of that, Greg, what's funny is that Agnes alluded to this earlier when they did that interview with Sidney, and she said the first thing she said off the bat was, "Oh, thank you so much to the people behind the scenes, to the people that really take care of the show." So we had that little nugget in there that she planted early, that she like really cares about the people behind the scenes.
But first, I want to thank everybody behind the scenes. Because, it's been a team effort.
Little do we know, we progress forward, and then she's like literally murdering people behind the scenes because she's so into this role of the butcher and it's consumed her. So it's just a fun, like you said, Kathy Bates is obviously having a ton of fun with this character.
Now, we leave Agnes for a second after the lights go out, they flicker, they come back on, and all the Blair Witch-like totems are all around her, and she starts screaming, and then that's where we leave Agnes for the time being.
All right, so now let's pick up with Matt, Shelby, and Dominic, this love triangle that's going down in the Roanoke house. Matt basically is over Shelby. He's like, you know what, dude, you can have her. I don't want her. I'm done with this. Dominic is basically in the mode of like, I need to get more screen time. He's like really taking this reality show serious. He's concerned about his career. Then we see Dominic go into the confessional, obviously a great element of any reality TV show, right? Mm-hmm. We've seen it in the real world. We've seen it in Big Brother, across the board, a whole bunch of reality shows. I love that Dominic actually name drops like real in-world, our world reality TV people, like Puck from Real World, Omarosa from The Apprentice, Aviva Drescher from Real Housewives New York City, I believe.
Here, go ahead. Go ahead, Heather. Take it. Oh my God.
Obviously, he's aware of the reality like landscape and what he needs to do in order to become like the most popular character or person on the show.
He also has a body cam, to throw this a little bit further into the realm of, sure, everyone's got a little camera somewhere. These cameras pop up everywhere, and I hope the production team, the actual AHS production team, we're having a lot of fun with this, seeing how many places we can put it and surprise people as they go on from scene to scene, from room to room, and see where they can go from there. I hope they had a lot of fun with it. I hope the actors did too, because we're going to go talk about it, especially in the next episode, how much I think just the actors look miserable, but I hope they really weren't in real life, but we'll go into that a little bit later.
If I gotta play the dick in order for people to tune in for ratings, then that's what the hell I'm gonna do.
All right, Greg, so back in Shelby's room, she's obviously distraught after all this fallout between Dominic and Matt, but she notices a camera on her bed with a little bit of blood on it, and it turns out Agnes is a full-time camera operator at this point, like you mentioned earlier. Agnes pops out and attacks Shelby in the bedroom, but she's saved by Dominic. Mm-hmm. she gets slashed across the arm, pretty nasty. Dominic saves the day, but then they turn around and there's no body. The body completely disappears.
She's something else now. She's a new entity. Whoever Agnes is, we don't know. She's a new design, new creature, something that Ryan Murphy will have to explain to us. How Agnes became this like T-1000 or something. She's later on, she's pulling bullets out of her. She's something else. The blood moon power. Let's just say she's driven by the blood moon. All right, let's go with that. I love also, side note, obviously it's not the two of them when the camera's on the floor and then Agnes and Dominic are in a little bit of a scuffle. I love, you can tell a little bit, it's got to be like you can see the stunt double for Agnes, for Kathy Bates, and they're in a little tussle for a second. I love it. And from there, again, just let's go. Let's leave. Everybody, it's time to go. Shelby there's an open wound on her. She has to get to the hospital at any moment now or she's going to die. She could bleed out right then and there. But sure enough, it's a TV show, so they have to keep going here. And everyone, again, these are all actors except for Shelby. So they just think, hey, you know what? Sidney's got to know what he's doing here. There's something's going on here. Maybe it's all fake. Who knows? So everyone just goes along with it.
Hey, Sidney, Shelby is really hurt. You need to send a f***ing ambulance to the house right now!
Like you said, Greg, the actors still, don't really believe that any of this stuff is real. Of course, the group splits up, which in any horror film, once you split up, some of you guys are gone for.
Bye.
Lee, Monet, and Audrey go down into the tunnels. Now they come across a real spirit. It looks like it was Mott. And then it turns out that they get outside and they realize that the blood moon is high in the sky, and it's basically GTFO immediately. The blood moon, none of them, remember, the actors, when they filmed here, it wasn't during the blood moon. The real life people actually survived it, barely survived the blood moon, and they know exactly what is coming for them. But the actors are still not sold. At this point, though, enough people are kind of freaked out that it seems plausible to grab a car, everyone just jump in and just drive as far as you can.
They're convinced after, at this point, it's Lee shooting Mott, the real Philippe Mott. He gets right up and still goes after them. So at this point, they're convinced something weird's happening here.
Greg, this is when Audrey delivers perhaps the line of the episode here.
Oh, leave me alone. I'm not American. I'm not used to all this carnage.
Thank God for Sarah Paulson and Kathy Bates. If they weren't in this season, we probably, I don't know what we'd be doing right now. We probably wouldn't even have done the breakdowns for this show. But I absolutely adore this season. I'll say that again, but this is the cheesiest thing I've ever seen in the history of American Horror Story.
And speaking of cheesy, this is perhaps one of the goofiest lines as well.
Oh my God, it's Agnes! Oh my God!
That's right, Agnes again tries to attack. She's attacking Lee, Monet, and Audrey here. But thankfully, Lee, she's a former cop, has a gun, shoots her down. And then they're kind of on the run. They're trying to hide. They don't know, who's out in the woods. At this point, Audrey's thinking that she's a goner for sure. And she's recording into her own camera about, I love you, Rory, all that kind of stuff. And then you see some blood kind of dripping from above her. Of course, there's a body hanging above her.
Yes.
It's Rory split open. And now, Greg, if it wasn't, if you weren't going to get the hell out of there before, now I think it's a good time to just leave immediately.
I think so, but they need a car or something, but they just head on down the road outside, where, of course, the Polks are waiting for them.
This brings us back, Greg, to this question about Agnes. I mean, we see her again, and somehow she is still alive. She takes a bullet to the chest or the shoulder area, and she pulls out the bullet. I mean, like you said, what kind of Terminator is she? This is crazy.
Universal soldier. She is she's something else. The blood moon power has her adrenaline and everything kicking at 110%. I guess. Let's just go with that. Blood moon power.
So after Shelby's close run with death, when Agnes attacked her, kind of Matt and her kind of rekindle a little bit of, a little intimacy and just kind of hang out with each other. And, they did mean something to each other for a certain time period, obviously, when they were married. But later that night, it doesn't take long for Matt to just kind of, wander off. He's under the spell of Skathic, obviously.
He hears someone calling to him.
And he has no control. He can't do anything. He basically is just in a trance. So he goes downstairs to the basement, and then he proceeds to have sex with Skathic. Now, Dominic is not good news, guys. He's just a snitch
nosy.
over here.
Nosy.
He just totally nosy. He just kind of checks in on Matt, sees what's going down, and then he goes up to tell Shelby to come check it out as well and see what's going down in person.
Now, this isn't Lady Gaga, all right? This is the real witch. So, with that said, Shelby, she shoos her away. She hits her, I guess, once with her crowbar, and she flees. I think you hear like a door creak open and close or something. It's weird when the witch just runs out. And then from there, Matt, who's may or may not be under a spell, we don't know. But at this point, he looks at Shelby and says, "I want to be with her. I'm in love with her." Just this scene, I will never forget it from beginning to end. Just how crazy it is.
I am in love with her, Shelby. She's the reason I came back.
I was shocked that Dominic didn't do anything. He didn't stop her. He's like literally letting Shelby murder a man in front of him and like lets it go, like doesn't do anything.
She put in like maybe 6 shots before he finally stopped and okay, that's enough, let's stop. No, okay guys, what's Dominic's plan here, other than, of course, that we find out later on that sure enough, he recorded everything, of course, and he has his own footage, and he's just trying to tell her, listen, I didn't do anything wrong here. It was, it was all you, and you got to confess and everything. I couldn't stop it in time.
Yeah, and this shows you that, like, not only are there actual monsters out in the forest and coming to get them, but, like, the people are turning on each other, and they're turning into literal monsters, which we see in countless horror shows and movies. These characters are pushed to their extreme limits, and in this crazy, unique, dramatic situation, stressful environment, that now they are becoming the monsters that they're so scared of.
I loved him so much. I loved him so much. You know.
So from here, we meet the real Polk family with a bunch of actors who are very recognizable on the street, but unrecognizable on this show at the moment, including Finn Whitrock. I mean, cool. This is they're just as disgusting and very much X-Files home characters that we knew that we're probably going to get with the Polk family. Even at the same time, I wish there was a twist to the Polk family where they're completely different. They're like a nice, wholesome, like Amish family who's living out in the forest. I wish there was a twist there.
That's a great point, Greg. I was actually looking forward to that as well. As we learn, they're pretty much the same counterparts of what we saw in the show My Roanoke Nightmare. It's not really heavily dramatized. I mean, they're cannibals. We find out they grow some weed, cannabis on the site there. They're into incest, all that horrible, crazy stuff. But they're not. It would have been interesting, like you said, to have like a complete different version than what we saw, and maybe like Sidney's version of them was just absolutely horrendous.
Yeah. I wish they're like, oh, we're so sorry. We're here to protect you and stop the Roanoke colony. They could have had them still die off at the end. They could have all still killed themselves, sacrificing themselves, to save Shelby and everyone. But no, it's okay. It's all right. And the only difference between Sidney's version of the Polks really is that he forgot one character, and that was Jethro Polk.
He only good for 2 things: weed and
Taking pictures.
Let's talk about Jethro for a second. Jethro, played by Finn Whitrock, as you mentioned. Pretty random. I mean, it's always good to have Finn back on the show. But remember, he had a huge season 4 in Freak Show, a huge season 5 in American Horror Story Hotel. And then to just kind of, it feels like he was kind of an afterthought here. I wish that Finn would have had a much larger role. I mean, maybe for his schedule, he couldn't pull it off. But even if you get like a little bit of one of these actors, a little cameo, it's fun. But as you see here, we're going to see later, it's a very short-lived cameo for Whitrock. Also, pay attention closely. Mama Polk definitely is not Frances Conroy here. It's actually played by Robin Wiegert. I think I'm saying that correctly. Wiegert. Anyways, you might recognize her from Deadwood if you're a big fan of the older HBO show, and also Castle Rock, which was, I believe, a few seasons ago, right, Greg?
Yeah, R.I.P. Castle Rock. I think she was season 1 of Castle Rock.
He's doing real good.
So, like you said earlier, the Polks are cannibals,
Yes.
and of course they've cut up Lee. They've taken a piece of her leg, and now they're feeding it to Monet and Audrey. This whole sequence, I love it because just the actors and how they're playing these roles and they're screaming. And
Greg loves cannibalism. What do you
No. I love this campy, cheesy show. That's what I love right now, and how at this point I wonder what's going through the actors' minds. Going, how did I get here?
Yeah, exactly.
How did this happen? What am I doing? As you see Shelby there, or not Shelby, excuse me. Who are we talking about? Sarah Paulson's character just take Audrey a bunch of whatever meat they gave her, and she sticks it in her mouth. I'm just thinking at that moment, she's probably like Harrison Ford in episode 4 going, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah, this is super grotesque and nasty, but obviously, that's the Polk family's into. Now, the other key here is that Jethro Polk is a cameraman himself, Greg. He's recording this entire interaction, so we know at some point this footage that he's recording did end up in the hands of the network itself in order to pull off this whole thing. So if there's any questions on what happens down the line while you're watching this, you know that this footage is going to surface at the very end of the whole thing, or else it wouldn't be part of the show what we're currently seeing.
So that means all this snuff footage goes to the police. The police release it, I guess, or it gets either that, or you can say it got leaked online first somehow. Someone else found it, leaked it online, and then the police found it, but then they didn't do anything about it. And then how did they chop all this together and make a new production video out of it? I don't know. Think about it. Just don't think about it.
Don't think about it, Greg, because I don't think that this could literally ever happen in the real world. Obviously, you couldn't make a show out of all these people's real life deaths, and then just say, hey, let's turn it on Netflix, Greg. Let's go watch this. I don't think so.
Look at this, son!
Jeez, how are we gonna stop them from getting into the house?
Now, back with Agnes for one last time. She's got her torch. She's out front of the house, waiting for Audrey and Dominic to come out. And we see she's joined by guests. The real Roanoke colony shows up with their torches, and she gets to meet the real butcher for a moment, at least. She says, I'm sorry for portraying you the way I did and all this before. It is goodbye forever, I guess. At this point, she's not getting up from this shot. It's come to an end as she takes the butcher's cleaver right through the forehead.
All right, Greg, chapter 8. So we pick up as the butcher kills Agnes, who is pretending to be the butcher. And this whole sequence here mirrors what we saw earlier in the season when Cricket was killed in the show itself, when Cricket was killed in front of Matt and Shelby. Now this time it's Shelby and Dominic watching, the real life murder of Agnes. And there's a funny mention here that Shelby says you literally played this role in the show. You shot this. You know exactly what's going down. It's a little meta moment where they kind of they wink towards the actual show within the show.
You know what that was? Dominic, you've played this scene before.
Oh, Matt.
So their only move from here is possibly the tunnels. So, of course, at this point, Shelby and Dominic head down there. They pass Matt's body again. And then from there, in the tunnels, unfortunately, they see the Chen family, who are, now we said last week, The Ring and Exorcist. People have pointed out in the comment section, and they're very spot on here, that is also The Grudge. Looks like they're cribbing The Grudge here a lot, as we see the family approach them. And they're crawling on the walls, and they're coming towards them throughout the house.
Absolutely
it's so
terrifying.
Creepy.
Absolutely terrifying.
It's complete nightmare fuel, and I'm all for it. And now just chaos reigns at this point. The house is just coming undone. Stuff's falling from the ceilings. The chandelier's crashing. Basically, the entire house is coming alive at this point. It's crazy.
All right, Greg, now back with the Polk family, Mama Polk wants to give a little history lesson just to prove to Lee what exactly is going down and kind of the context and background into why they are so demented and twisted. So apparently during the Great Depression, food is hard to come by, everyone's really poor, and they had their farm, and they had some pigs on this farm. And then some people came onto the property, and some thieves basically took their pigs. But the Polk family, no, you don't do that. They grabbed the thieves, and they started using them as dinner. So basically, this is the start of being cannibals for them, and they proved that, basically, hey, we're never going to go hungry again when we can just eat human beings. Makes sense, right, Greg?
I don't think it works that way, but they went 0 to 100 on this whole story from Great Depression to cannibals very quickly. They didn't need to do that. That's a big step.
I mean, let's not downplay how horrible the Great Depression was and what the sacrifices people needed to make, but I think you're right in saying that maybe you don't need to jump to cannibalism in order to survive this.
I'm not going to Google cannibalism, North Carolina, Great Depression. I don't want to look that up. But I'm just going to say I think the writers took a huge leap here, I believe. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm not going to find out.
And that's when we had our feast.
Now, we also get a cool Piggy Man origin story here that I hope is played out in another season or American Horror Stories. It seems like it has to, the way they put this character together, which is connected to the Polk family, Kincaid Polk. And it was during the 1903 World's Fair where he became the Piggy Man, where he donned a Piggy Man mat, or he put on the pig's head, and he would slaughter people just like he would slaughter his pigs back in the day. This screams like something we'll see again in a future season. Should they go back again to do a period piece? I don't know if they will. They already greenlit 3 more seasons, so maybe there's a period piece. I don't know. I just feel like maybe everything's going to be present day from going here on out. But you got all these costumes. Maybe they can do it. I hope they do, at least one more time. I'm hoping for Winchester. But sure, Piggy Man, World's Fair, if you're going to do something kind of like HHH, sure, go for it. I'm all for that. But I have a feeling we're going to see the Piggy Man origins again.
Yeah, I think you're right, Greg, and I think it's a great call. I think for American Horror Stories, which we saw the first teaser of a poster actually this week, the one-off spin-off series where every episode will be its own self-contained story. I think an idea like this, diving into Piggy Man's origin and kind of expanding that and giving us some visuals to go with what we already know, would be great. I mean, there's you can do this with a bunch of the different kind of the monsters across the American Horror Story universe. So Piggy Man's great. Obviously, this is a connection into season 1 of Murder House when Derek goes to meet with Ben. Yes. Derek, of course, is played by Eric Stonestreet. Derek is like an insomniac, and he's paralyzed by the idea of these urban legends, and Piggy Man being one of those. So this kind of urban legend is part of the American Horror Story universe where people have, it's a real life thing that happened and they're kind of worried about it. And he even goes in front of the mirror at home, and if you say Piggy Man, kind of like Beetlejuice or like Candyman, then it'll attack you.
Urban legends, huh? That's very interesting that you would say that. American Horror Story and urban legends, huh? Interesting. Now, back with Dominic and Shelby, he's giving her a pep talk saying, we got to make it through this. You got this. You're strong. You got this, girl. And at the same time, he takes her downstairs to the kitchen, and there's a camera in the fridge. That's one of those, the production crew were like, surprise, look, there's a camera everywhere. No matter where you are, we're going to find you with a camera. And I think this is also just a nice little Easter egg and a joke for people watching at home. Just if you're trying to keep count of where the hell all these cameras are coming from, no matter where they are in the house, they're getting it all, apparently.
Greg, and I think the line of this episode is what Shelby says to Dominic here.
You're a really good actor. You think so?
Now, sadly, we have to say goodbye to Shelby here as she kills herself, and she's done with this. She wants out of this show, so she slashes her own throat before Dominic can come over and stop her. Now, again, all on camera. This is all on Dominic's little camera he's got on his chest. And you got to take a huge leap of your imagination at this point, because you got to think like, okay, so they found all of this footage, they found everything, and everyone's able to capture like all of these camera angles and take it all in and absorb all this footage and go ahead and just edit this together. Good job, whoever did this, but it takes a leap of imagination. I'll just say that.
Dominic is also really pissed at Sidney still here. He keeps on like yelling at the cameras, and this is such a funny moment when he says that he had a trip planned for Thailand next month and he's never been, and he's just so pissed off that he won't be going to Thailand. Greg, I was literally laughing out loud.
There's not going to be any Thailand, you stupid slut.
There's not going to be a swimming pool, you stupid slut.
Now, over at the Polk family, Jethro Polk is continuing to record Lee and kind of her final words as she wants to speak to her daughter, Flora.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a bombshell, Greg. This is when Lee admits to actually killing Mason, which we saw earlier in the season. My question is, how the hell did she pull it off? Like, he was up on that big display all torched up. But yeah, apparently she comes clean and she admits it. This is exactly what Sidney wanted her to do. Mm-hmm. All this stress and all this drama would basically push her to the brink to come clean about the murder that so many people suspected she had done.
I killed Daddy. That's on me. And me alone.
Now, right from there, Lee seduces Jethro, but she's got to do it to get out of there. Now, Jethro, he's not the brightest of the bunch, so of course he unties one of her hands, and she uses that to grab him, and then turns him around and chokes him out. So I think we can take a big leap of faith here that, yeah, she could take care of her husband or her ex and throw him up on that thing and set him on fire. I'm just looking at that scene going, yeah, I can see her doing this somehow. Now, from there, this is where everything gets a little wacky, where you start to see characters running back and forth throughout the Polk compound like it's a Monty Python skit. So Lee breaks free, and then we cut to Monet and Audrey, and Audrey's having a rough time with the crew as they're going to start pulling out teeth at this point. And Monet, just before they can pull out her teeth, the chair breaks. She's able to break free, as well as the Polks. The Polk brothers are, not the brightest of the bunch either. She knocks one of the Polk brothers out, runs off, and leaves Audrey by herself. She just says, bye girl. I promise I'll try to look for you or something, and heads out. By the way, Audrey and Monet were willing to just send Matt and Shelby down the river with the Polks to get out of this. Okay, cool. And this is where you go, okay, cool, so everyone's probably going to die here. They're all miserable monsters, every single one of them. So who's the winner here? Who knows? It doesn't really matter at this point because you're just rooting for chaos to reign at this point.
Lee manages to actually save Audrey, who's getting tortured by Mama Polk, and then surprisingly, Audrey actually does Mama Polk in with a hammer.
You fucking butcher.
Now, Lee and Audrey go back to the Roanoke house one more time. This is where they see all the carnage. They find Matt's body. Yeah. Lee's broken up over this, but Audrey, gets her upstairs into the rest of the house where they can find. Now, at this point, they see Shelby's dead, and they blame it all on Dominic, of course. Dominic! He's the only one there. They don't see any other ghosts, so they have to just, think it's him.
Yeah, Lee doesn't believe that Shelby would actually kill Matt. Matt was like her entire world, so she doesn't believe Dominic at all here. And I like how Audrey is giving backhanded compliments to a passed away Shelby. She's like, she's way too self-centered to even commit suicide. She would never do this. Just you can tell that there's so much like this spite between these two characters from before when she was alive. So at this point they can't trust Dominic, because he says the whole story, but they need to see it, which is interesting coming from a person like Lee who had to defend her own innocence, which turned out to not be innocence, but she's the one saying this now to Dominic. So they find themselves in a predicament here with not really trusting, not knowing who to trust. But now Dominic is a goner as well.
It's his fault they're all dead.
Now, in the morning, Lee, comes to the realization, apparently, that, oh, wait, I just confessed to killing my husband, my ex, so now I need to get that footage back. So she comes up with this story with Audrey about how we need to, tell our side of the story. We can't let that footage get out to the wrong hands, or they can just, manipulate the footage and make it look like we killed the Polks or something, and we weren't, like, trying to defend ourselves. Sure, there's cameras everywhere, but still, she managed to convince Audrey to go along with this, and they're going to now go back to the compound, Ryan, and go get that footage. And Lee, with one leg, is going to do this.
Yeah, the interesting thing here, obviously, is that Lee hasn't told Audrey that she confessed to a murder on those tapes as well, right? Mm-hmm. All she says is basically, hey, we killed those people. It's on tape. We need to get those tapes and get rid of them. But as we know, we've seen the footage, right? So we know that this doesn't happen. That they aren't able to pull this off. We know that the footage is ultimately surfaced to the public in the show that we're watching. So I mean, initially when you're following along, you're like, wow, Lee now is in a lot of hot water because she confessed to this whole murder and it's airing on TV.
Yep. So you're like, who the hell survives this thing at the end? At this point, you're like, I don't know, maybe Audrey. So the episode ends with them just about to head out back to the Polk compound. They open the door, and sure enough, the Piggy Man's there. But it's not exactly the Piggy Man. It's the actor who portrayed the Piggy Man in the My Roanoke Nightmare documentary.
So it's Dylan, apparently, and he's played by Wes Bentley,
of course,
who played Piggy Man, but also played Ambrose in the show as well. So Wes Bentley playing double duty, Dylan playing double duty inside the universe. You get what I'm saying. But basically, he's there to stop them, and that's how we end this episode. So we don't know if he's going to help them, or if he's going to attack them, or where the hell he's been hiding out this whole time.
All right, everyone, that's it for us over here. Let us know what you thought of these two crazy episodes in the comment section down below, and we'll be back here next week for episodes 9 and 10.
Later, guys.